If you're angry about the FCC banning Chinese drones, you're mad at the wrong people. This wasn't a sudden decision. This wasn't political theater. And it wasn't the FCC waking up one morning and choosing chaos. This was a decade of ignoring warnings, followed by delayed accountability. And the first responders, farmers, hobbyists, small businesses are the ones paying the price. So today, we're not here to yell about China. We're here to talk about how America gave its drone industry away and who's actually responsible. So let's talk about this and get one thing straight. Before the internet loses its mind, the FCC did not ground existing drones. They did not ban flying, and they did not target hobbyists.
And what that is that the FCC controls communication authorizations. If a drone uses radios, comm links, or telemetry or data links, it needs FCC approval. And that's pretty much the biggest part of why it's a problem. The rule book pretty much isn't going out the window just yet, but their rules blocks the future of authorizations for what we do when it comes down to foreign-made drones and critical components for sUAS. Unless cleared by national security agencies, we are pretty much at a place where we're at limits on what we can do. So productivity previously approved, or products previously approved by the FCC is still being shipped here and can still be used at the time in the US. But however, FCC has made changes to their regulations on how they can approve the things that we can use. So in the future, they can retroactively ban previously approved and authorized items.
So I got a question for you. Explain that more. How is this going to impact us going forward? Take our own company. How is that going to affect somebody like a small company like us who's in the process of building them? We have the parts we've bought from China. How much is that going to limit us on what we can use and can't use going forward?
So think of things like this, like your transmitters and receivers, the actual transmitter themselves, like say if you're using a Radio Master TX16S or even FR Sky transmitter, those things are currently approved and you can still use them. But say they come out with a better system that's actually doesn't have issues, or is just a better upgrade from what it is. That means that now those items they won't be shipped here. So it's not going to be used. So if you're running into problems, say if you need a FCC approval, say we do something with the government where you need to submit your signals for approval on a range or whatever. Now, if that aircraft is already, or those signals are already at a place to where they're not in there and they're not approved on that list, you will not be able to use that on a range. Or the other biggest part is if they decide to retroactively disapprove something that was already approved. There's a lot of approve and disapprove right there.
Right.
But to make this clear is basically you could have anything that's made outside of the United States still be banned. So in case of like RFD 900s as an example, they're not made in China. They are made in Australia, but that is a foreign-made aircraft or foreign-made UAS component. Or say you take something like maybe, and these may not fall because I have to look into a little bit more. If you look at Parrot is made here, but it is owned by a French company. So you start to run into a consistency of there's a lot of different components and or aircraft that you could get, but it may not be usable because it's made outside of the United States. That's how it impacts everyone. You will have items that you're probably currently and are using, but you may not be able to get the newest, latest, and greatest. And possibly if they decide to in the future, if some, God forbid, conflict or something happens where now we are at a place to where we are at arms with someone else, those components may not be able to be used either. You now have to figure out on your own where you're going to be able or get it. And that's the major problem is in the United States, there is no hardware pipeline or effectively anything that's in this country. So it makes it where everything's becoming frozen. And till companies in the US can create components, we are at a loss on what we're going to do.
So the translation on all this, new models, what are we looking at?
Just, you may have to go with what's here, TBS crossfires or Spectrum transmitters, which Not bad, don't get me wrong. Like TBS is pretty much they're a good system, and I've used them before. Spectrum, decent transmitters too. It is a little more complicated sometimes for me than what it was for like when I was, using FR Sky. But the biggest part is just gonna be where you're gonna get it. And now you're relying on bigger companies that are in the United States to get it. So that's gonna be a change that everybody is gonna have to really figure out real quick, real fast, and in a hurry because it's already been there. Like you and I have talked about this several times. This isn't changed. This has been a problem for a very, very long time. It's just now they finally said, all right, fuck, enough is enough. The government's like, we're going to now make it to where you're going to end up changing it. We're going to force you to, which in a way, even though it sounds, I agree that there is a change that's needed. We need to do some of this stuff. We need to have it because it needs to be here. Unfortunately, the cost of it is where we have problems, where they can make a motor for $5, selling for $10. We can't do that here as easily.
Yeah. So to me, what I'm hearing is this is not sudden. It's not random, nor is it accidental.
Correct.
So for me, the real problem is the procurement culture that the United States has here in America.
Yeah.
And I mean, the uncomfortable truth that we're dealing with is the US government didn't lose the drone market. We outsourced it.
Yeah.
For years, I mean, we've dealt with procurement decisions that were driven by one thing: what's cheap, what's fast, and what's available. Nobody asked who owns the data, who controls the updates, what happens if the supply chains shut off? We treated drones like office printers, not like strategic infrastructure.
Agreed. And in this regard, is from a system standpoint, DJI didn't just sell aircraft, they sold an ecosystem of items, everything from software, sensors, cameras,
Yeah.
you got everything. They didn't just do one thing, they did multiples and they were smart. They optimized a market that wasn't optimized by anyone else. They took
Yep.
advantage of something properly in a lot of ways to their advantage and made it to where they found a loophole that was out there that no one else was wanting to do. So you're right. It wasn't just a sudden thing. It was something that came up over time that just wasn't changed.
Yeah. And so, I mean, while they were sitting out there and they were building ecosystems, we were sitting around and just running pilot programs. So, I mean, that's on us. The fact that the other thing is like American manufacturers, where are you at? Why are we not building stuff right here in America? I mean, now here's where people get uncomfortable. American drone companies didn't lose because China cheated. They lost because they didn't compete.
Yeah. There's only a few companies that have done it and they're doing their best and they're doing pretty good. They have the system, like I said, TBS Crossfires or TBS company by themselves. And then you have companies like Castle Link, and they're trying to do what they can, or not Castle Link. Castle is one of those companies that they make the SEs and they're fucking bulletproof. I'll be honest, they're bulletproof. It's just the cost. You run into a problem where the cost is harder to drop down because of manufacturing in the United States. We can't beat that part of it because of what China and other countries can make at a way cheaper rate. And we have to find some solution to that. That is a killer in so many areas. It's like, how you gonna have something that's American made, but Americans can't fucking afford it? Lack of better words. We have so many things that's in our country that we can do, but we can barely fucking afford to do it or to buy those things that we actually create. That has to have some change. It has to be something that comes in that says we can be just as competitive as any other country and it matters. It matters. It makes us need to be at a place to where we control what we control and what we do. And we become that top of the food chain and whatever it is. We're there on some things, but not on everything. And this is one of those keys that I think it needs to. So reliability matters. The integrity of these systems matter, you know,
I agree.
and a lot of these platforms, the expenses of it is a killer for a lot of people. Most people don't want to spend over $2,000-$3,000 on something that it doesn't cost that. I've heard it, and in like our case, we have our own things that we're trying to work to get out, and it doesn't cost. I've
Right.
seen systems that are like $20,000, and I'm like, whoa, that's 3 or 4 times what it costs to make.
Yep.
Got it. You got to play your people, but then that means that you have to really take into how that's gonna, the business model and grow it as needed. But we'll see. It's fragmented and it's harder to operate in those situations, I think. And how can I put it? It isn't optimal, but it is what it is.
No, I'm with you. I mean, again, as with everything in the world, it comes down to money. And if your system costs 5 times more and does half the job, users will vote with their budgets and keeping that money in their pockets. That's not espionage. That's market reality.
Yeah, and
So, I mean, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that, and that's unfortunately a economic espionage that was utilized to control an area that we had an opportunity to kind of build out and to get in control a long time ago. And 2016, we saw a incline, and I saw at that point when I first, like I said, when I first got out the army, I saw a significant thing. Like, man, I could use this for multiple different things. And I always heard, no, it's not this, it's not that. I've talked to several people. They're like, no, they're not useful. And then Ukraine hit, and then they were like, oh,
Yo,
let me take this drone to hit a tank. Oh, let's go take air defense system out. Oh, let's inundate air defense system. Less cost on it to be built with that. And that was, I saw that myself 10 years ago now, literally almost
yeah.
to date. 10 years ago, seeing that, and no one saw it. And that's what drives me nuts. Like, no innovation, no foresight, no future thoughts. And that's what's really getting us our future concepts and being able to see what we can do with something that's already pre-available and knowing that you can use this for other things right away.
I mean, I'm with you. I hear what you're saying. Let's talk about who's to blame then. I blame the policymakers who kicked this can down the road and thought, we'll deal with it later. Everyone in Washington knew this was a problem. One, no one wanted to listen, but nobody wanted to anger the users. Nobody wanted to fund domestic scale. Nobody wanted to own the transition, and they delayed more. Instead of building an exit ramp, we waited until the bridge collapsed, and this is a real problem.
At some point, national security stops being theoretical. It's true life. Things
Right.
that you can see that most people shouldn't have to take into account. But it's funny hearing talking to people, they don't really see it. They don't really think about what some of these things can do and think about it in an open source way. It's just
Yeah,
like kind of the concept is like beyond them. It's like, no, whatever, what is this? And that's the problem I think really needs to be. Changes have to work in a way that supports everyone, but it needs to
agreed.
be considered from everyone above what it's going to be. Supply chain leverage is real, data access matters, airspace integrity matters as much as just as the actual system it's being made matters also.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the FCC didn't start this fire. They were handed an unacceptable risk determination, and their job is binary: approve or block. There's no like, it's kind of safe in national infrastructure. And I mean, here's the part that nobody really planned for. I mean, people getting hurt aren't the policymakers. They're the police departments, the fire crews, the farmers, small operators. These are the guys who are actually taking the brunt of the problem that we're now dealing with.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the good thing I will say, at least the FCC didn't outright ban all because
Right.
they already knew that there is a lot of cities and other agencies who have already invested in these systems and use them daily in a
Yeah.
regular basis for all sorts of different things, from bridge inspections to apprehending suspects to, people using them to just go look for deer and people that are
Right.
lost.
100%.
And some systems have already been taken out of the federal industry a long time ago, to say the truth. There's some that, like the Department of Interior, I want to say at least 4 or 5 years ago, stopped using their drones well before now. And
Yeah.
they found solutions to replace those, but the everyday person, we're going with whatever is best and what's going to be cheapest. And like you said, what works more than someone that's going to spend $10,000-$20,000 for an aircraft because they don't have it. Let's just be
Right.
honest. A
No.
person getting started, as we kind of talked on in several ways, is there are several companies who don't have that revenue or that capital to just go buy one, not two, not three, $20,000 aircraft
Yeah.
that would do the job. And you need more than one. That redundancy, if one aircraft goes down, your business is down if that was just that one. So it is a significant thing that needs to be done. And, they're putting entire fleets now in limbo because of this situation that could have been resolved years ago.
Yeah. I mean, with all of this being said, I just want people to realize we didn't protect the users here. We abandoned them. And the biggest takeaway from this is China didn't steal the drone market. America literally gave it away. And now we're shocked that someone else owns it. The FCC didn't cause this mess.
Yeah.
Turned it, they just turned on the lights and let us all see whatever the capabilities are.
Yeah, and I think that is the biggest one is just seeing that in that aspect of it, the FCC just finally said, "Hey, look, we're at a place." Not only think it's just FCC. FCC was carrying out things from what DoD and others may have thought that was needed to be done right now, and they were just the unfortunate of the news, and they're the controllers of the news. So I think they may have known, and they've seen it, and inevitable is there. Now, just like everything else, all right, let's do it. What's the change? Make it work and keep moving. That's what we got to do. And another thing, so one thing we didn't cover before, we need to kind of go over also is DARPA. Tomorrow, which would be January 5th, is official opening for anyone who is wanting to submit a drone for the DARPA challenge. And this is where I guess the rubber's going to meet the road on what's going to happen. And it is also going to be the part that we kind of see what's going to get through. And they made some changes. I'll have to say that they made a few different little things, and it's not a major one. Like one was adding in lane changes so that now it went from being 50 feet wide, or yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's 50 feet wide lanes to 100-foot wide lanes. And they've changed out to from 350 feet to 250 feet, plus or minus 50 feet. So they are giving it a little bit of wiggle room because getting to 350, you're going to use a lot of your power to get up there. So now that gives them a little bit more power. And also having a little bit wider area in what you're using for setting up your mission plan is going to be helpful. So we're honestly, I think this is a good one, and seeing some of the things that I think a lot of people are going to probably try to submit is going to be a big help. This is where we start to get our control and our power back into this industry, and US starting to make leeways into we'll get our control and our dominance back, and or should I say gaining that dominance that we need. Like always, we're never really behind. We're just at a place to where we just now need to project it in our own way. So going forward, this is going to be a big change that will be a support to a difference in what DoD sees from the civilian side, and also the civilian side being able to truly take an opportunity to utilize their knowledge, skills, and capabilities to support national defense overall. And we will be able to now have some things that most people probably won't even think will come out. So what's your thoughts on that? What do you think is going to be the bigger changes on both when you look at DARPA, the DARPA challenge, and these components? Like how you think in your mindsets of, especially how, like we were talking about for us, how you think it's going to help to affect us?
Well, I think DARPA made it a softer target for us to actually for all the people competing to hit. I think in the fact that you're giving more latitude on how wide the lane is, how long everything's got to be done. Like I think we're giving I think there's more latitude there that people are going to be able to hit some targets and maybe meet the requirements that they've actually put forth. I think it was a bit constrained earlier with like what they did and how they what they were looking for and asking for. I think was a hard meet on a short timeline. And with the parts and things, I think that's going to be big. I think once manufacturers start stepping up, I think the threat of the cost should start going down. I mean,
Yeah.
once we start building competition here in the US where we're being told now our own parts need to come from, I think you're going to see a big change. I just want to throw out there, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow all of our followers and viewers, and y'all take care. And we appreciate you guys. We appreciate everything you got.
All right. Hey, on my side too, thank you for everyone that subscribed to us and who have been looking and watching our content. Greatly appreciate it, and
Yep.
we appreciate the growth, and it's been showing. If you got any comments, or add in the comments below on if there's things you want to hear us talk about or get more insight on, or if you have thoughts that's opposite of what we see in
Yeah.
regard to what we're thinking, we'll be glad to hear it and respond.
Yeah.
So
Love to communicate with you guys.
thank you. Talk to you guys later.